What up, party poopers? Slight location change. This week's episode comes to you from my porcelain throne where I spend most of my days. We're fully stocked, but don't worry, the seat is down, my pants are up, and we're just here to talk. It's March 9th, which means it's officially been 1 year since I was diagnosed with a pooping problem. I've brought a cupcake to this week's episode. I'll literally use any excuse to eat sweets, so instead of viewing today as a upsetting day, I am going to celebrate. My doctors told me the first year would be the hardest, and now it's officially behind me, so I'm gonna celebrate. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna light this candle and make a wish. Since we're celebrating this 1 year anniversary of me finding out that I had ulcerative colitis, I figured why not tell you how I found out. A lot of people ask me, how did you know you were sick? And I often respond by saying, apologies for being graphic, but I was shitting blood for 3 weeks. Who shits blood for 3 weeks without going to a doctor? To be honest, that is exactly what I did. I went to a walk-in clinic and told the doctor what was going on, and he proceeded to do a minor scope where they take a quick peek up your bum. After seeing whatever the doctor saw, he decided that it was necessary to send me for a rush colonoscopy. I'm a really stubborn person, and at this point, I'm still convinced there's not something serious wrong with me, or at least I don't want to admit it. So I decide I'm gonna sweat it out. It was week 3 on the Monday, and I agreed to join a run crew to go on an 8K run. I hadn't been on a run in a while, and I think by about 3K, I realized that this was the worst decision I ever could have made. By the Wednesday morning, I woke up completely broken. I could barely walk because my joints were so inflamed. My fever was through the roof, the color in my complexion was non-existent, but I decided to go to work anyways. My boyfriend at the time, Dan, insisted on me calling in sick to work. I refused because I figured that my situation was manageable. I mean, at this point, I'd already pooped at the office like over 100 times in the last week, so I was totally over using the washroom at work. By noon, I had limped to the bathroom because my joints were still messed. I had limped to the bathroom about a dozen times. The last time I came back to my desk, the 2 guys that sit beside me had made comments saying, "You don't seem like yourself today, you seem really quiet." And the one that sat closer to me was like, "You look white as a ghost and you're sweating. Are you sure you should be here?" And at this point, no, I didn't think that I needed to be there. I grabbed my things, and at first I attempted to walk home, and I think I made it about half a block before flagging a cab. When I got home, my fever had turned into a cold sweat, so I decided I would draw a bath to help with the chills. I closed my eyes, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up with my face half underwater, like entire left nostril, half mouth underwater. I shot up immediately, completely freaked out because I had just passed out in the tub, and I gathered whatever strength I had to crawl back to the bedroom across the floor soaking wet just as I was born. Within minutes of all of this happening, in walks boyfriend Dan because he had heard that I had left work and he knew that I was sick. He tossed some clothes at me and said, "That's it, you're going to the hospital. I'm not taking no for an answer." Dan pretty much carried me to the emergency room, and in a way I like to think he kind of saved my life. Twice. Once by taking me to Emerge, and a second time by stopping me from escaping. We're in Emerge, and it's the same old routine. Old to me now, new to me then. They give me a gown, take my blood, push on my stomach, put a finger up my bum, and boom, they're admitting me for a super rush colonoscopy. After being admitted, there are a series of tests right off the bat. Standard for any new patient being admitted, you need to be tested for viruses because you're going into a hospital with other sick people. I call this the triple swab test from hell. Swab number 1, they swab a familiar place, the bum hole. Swab number 2, they take the cotton swab and go just around the rim of your nose. Swab number 3 is about the length of 3 cotton swabs, and it's on a bendy stick. They take the cotton swab and they stick it up your nose and all the way back to your throat. Now, when I'm in the hospital and this happens to me, I have zero warning. This nurse sticks this thing up my nose. Then she tells me she's got to do the other side. I'm laying back, and as she's coming at me with this swab, I start pushing my head into the pillow to try to go further and further away from her. And then she's like, "You need to stay still." I'm laying there, and now I'm like flinching back and forth. And she's like, "No, seriously, you need to stay still because this flimsy stick that this Q-tip is on, if it breaks inside your nose, we have to go up there with tweezers to get it out." I don't know if that's true or not, but I definitely stayed still, and a couple weeks later they tried to do that test again, and I legit locked myself in the bathroom. The next couple days are pretty groovy. I'm on a lot of painkillers, doctors are coming by asking questions, nurses are holding me up for x-rays, I'm pooping like a champ. My tummy just grumbled. Can't help it. I'm pooping like a champ. And then this one doctor comes in and uses the C word. I haven't even had the colonoscopy yet and they're already calling colitis? My oldest brother has colitis and it almost killed him. I know what this is and I don't want it. This was the point that I finally broke down. I was still a couple days out from the colonoscopy. I hadn't really told anyone I was in the hospital because I didn't want them to worry. My mom was in DC, so aside from Dan and my friend Ange, I was kind of on my own. The night I got the bad news was the same night that I moved from short-term stay to long-term stay. It was also the same night that the nurses decided that I was going to be a human pincushion. I needed a new IV line, but because I hadn't eaten food in days and because I'd lost so much blood, my veins were deflated. Essentially, they went up my arm one by one, poking, trying to find a vein without any success. Eventually, they gave up for the night. And that was the point when I called my mom, and I don't even think I made words. It was sort of like, but she was able to translate, and within 24 hours, my mom was on a plane from Victoria to Toronto to come be by my bedside. Finally, colonoscopy day came, and it's more of a 2-day thing because there's this whole prep that goes into it. In order to do the scope, they have to clear out your bowels. So you have to drink this fluid that tastes like gasoline that flushes everything out of your system. At this point, I didn't really have very much in my system and I was weak all around. So drinking this fluid was not only making me run to the bathroom, but it was making me feel very nauseous. At one point, I was in the bathroom and I was literally puking and pooping at the same time and then somehow screaming in between both of these. Dan got worried, came running to the door, opened the door, and I must have looked like the exorcist, like, get out! He shut the door so concerned and ended up standing outside and talking me through it. That night ended up being pretty rough. Dan eventually went home, switching shifts with my friend Ange, who spent the night. Mama Bear showed up in the morning, and soon enough I was being rolled off for my colonoscopy. The colonoscopy might have actually been the best part of this whole experience. They give you some pretty trippy drugs that send you to some pretty trippy places. I was so out of it. The resident doctor that came by to diagnose me had to come by 3 times because I couldn't remember. And this guy was like the Jamie Dornan of resident doctors. He was not easy to forget. From then on, it was touch and go, trial and error, good days and bad days, 6 different roommates, hot resident doctor coming by to check how many times I pooped that day. Finally, they found a drug that worked for me, and I was being sent home to live my new normal. It's what they like to call it after you've been recently diagnosed. Your life becomes your new normal. I've never been normal, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it my new weird. There it is, the story of how I found out I have a pooping problem. I'm sure you guys have similar stories. If you want, share them in the comments. I did promise that I was going to use this cupcake to make a wish. Today's wish is not just for me, it's for you too, because I'm wishing that anyone living with Crohn's and colitis can find the courage to wear it as a badge of honor, because as much as it's embarrassing, as much as it's a burden, it takes a lot of strength to fight something like this, and that is something that you should be proud of. Thank you for watching the iPoos.
I'm still standing better than I ever did, looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind.
These are famous people bathrooms. The last thing I want to do is be the nobody that goes in and blows up famous people bathrooms.